Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we got another news video here to discuss. We're looking at some signings from over the past couple days, some injury updates. We're looking at the finalists for the Jack Adams Trophy. Plus, we're also looking at some interesting trade rumors involving the Kings, Jets, and Kraken, and with all that coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the NHL Talking Show. Now before I get into this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. Thank you all for your support. I'm going to be able to without you guys, so if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment down in the comment section below discussing all discussing today's video. Now, as usual, I'm going to start today's video off by discussing some things from our past couple days. We left off on April 29th, so I'm going to go over 8 signings that happened between April 30th and May 1st. Also interesting signings that happened over those few days. So we're going to start here with the New Jersey Devils. The Devils signed undrafted UFA Schmelzer, who's a center, to a 2-year contract with the AAV, $775,000 that will begin to start next year. Now, Schmelzer has been playing over in the AHL over the past couple of years. Last year had 6 goals and 35 points in 68 games. This year was one of his best seasons over in the AHL, putting up 18 goals and 52 points in 72 games. That is a pretty good player. I think could be a solid call-up option there for the Devils if they run into injuries in the bottom 6. So that's what we're going to pick up there for the Devils. They also extended Shane Bowers, who was one of their call-up options from this year, who's a center, to a 2-year contract extension with the AAV of $775,000 that'll begin to start next year. Bowers gone to 8 games for the Devils this year at the NHL level, put up no points, but also had 10 goals and 14 points in 43 AHL games. Looks like a pretty good player there, so I expect Bowers will probably be another call-up option there for the Devils next year, so that's a pretty good sign there for New Jersey. Then we saw 4 signings by the St. Louis Blues. First, they gave right-shot defenseman Samuel Johansson, who was a 2026 round pick of the Blue Jackets, a 2-year ELC with the AAV of $870,000 that'll begin to start next year. He's been playing over in the SHL. Last year had 8 goals and 32 points in 52 games. This year had 11 goals and 27 points in 43 games. A little bit less games played, a tiny bit less points put up, but still, he looks like a pretty good player, and I think eventually could be a solid defenseman for the St. Louis Blues. That's a pretty good pickup there. Then we saw the St. Louis Blues sign center Otto Stenberg, who was a 2023 first-round pick, to a 3-year ELC with AAV of $950,000 that'll be going to start next year. Stenberg looks like a pretty good prospect. Last year had 3 points in 23 games over in the SHL. This year had 6 points in 31 games in the SHL. Looks like a pretty good player, and I think eventually could be a solid third, maybe second-line center there for the Blues. So that's a pretty good pickup there for the Blues to sign Stenberg to his ELC. Then we saw the St. Louis Blues sign undrafted winger Marcus Silvergard to a 1-year ELC with AAV of $870,000 that'll be going to start next year. Now for Silvergard, he played in the SHL last year, put up 17 goals and 41 points in 52 games. This year, 23 goals and 41 points in 51 games, so still a really good player. Looks like eventually could be a solid, like, maybe third-line player, so that's a pretty good sign there for the Blues to get another young player locked up on his ELC. And then we saw the Blues also sign Simone Robertson, who's a right winger, 2021 third-round pick, to a 3-year ELC with the AAV of $868,000 that'll be going to start next year. As for Robertson, he had 5 goals and 7 points in 16 SHL games last year, had 2 goals and 4 points in 27 SHL games this year. Still looks like a pretty good player, and I think eventually could be a solid 6 forward for the Blues. It's a pretty good sign there for St. Louis. Then we saw Carolina Hurricanes send 2023 5th-round pick Ruslan Kaziev, who's a goaltender, to a 3-year ELC with an AAV of $845,000 that we're going to start next year. Now, he's been playing over in the KHL over the past little while. Last year in the MHL, one of the lower leagues in the KHL, he had a 2.3 GAA, 923 save percentage in 23 games. This year over in the MHL, had a 2.19 GAA and a 927 save percentage in 28 MHL games. I think eventually he could be a solid third stringer, maybe even a backup for the Carolina Hurricanes. That's a pretty good sign there for Carolina. And lastly, we saw the Anaheim Ducks sign 2022 6th-round pick Vyacheslav Buyout to a 2-year ELC with AAV of $853,000 that'll be going to start next year. Buyout has also been playing over in Russia. Last year in the VHL, put up a 2.11 GAA and 933 save percentage in 35 games. This year in the VHL, put up a 2.57 GAA and 913 save percentage in 35 games. So looks like a pretty good player. Once again, I think eventually could be a solid third stringer or maybe even a backup for the Ducks. So that's a pretty good ELC sign there for Anaheim. So those are the signings we had over the past couple of days. Interesting to see the Devils sign a couple of players, including Shane Bowers. Interesting to see Blues give out a ton of ELCs, including guys like Stenberg and Robertson. And interesting to see the Ducks and Hurricanes sign goaltenders from over in the KHL. So good stuff there, and lots of interesting signings from the past couple of days. Going over to a quick look here at some injury updates from the past couple of days. We do have 2 injury updates. Heinen has an undisclosed injury for the Boston Bruins. Is out out day to day, so that's bad news there for the Bruins. And Cole Smith with upper body injuries out day to day for the Predators. That's a bad blow and didn't play in game action against the Canucks, so bad injury stuff there for Nashville. But those were the only injury updates from the past couple of days, so hopefully Smith and Heinen and Matthews are all able to get back in the game action in the not too distant future. Going over to the trophy finalists for the Jack Adams Award. Now the Jack Adams Award goes to the best coach in the NHL, and the 3 finalists were the coaches of teams who made the playoffs in the Western Conference, but were coaches of teams who have never won a Stanley Cup, and that is Rick Bowness in Winnipeg, Andrew Brunette in Nashville, and Vancouver's Rick Tochett. And all 3 of these guys have had really good seasons. Brunette led this Predators team from what was no man's land to making the playoffs as a first wildcard seed, even though they did wind up losing in the first round to Vancouver. Tochett led the Canucks to the Pacific Division title, was one of the best teams in the league, and on top of that, he helped the Canucks wind up being Nashville in round 1 to face Edmonton in round 2, and Bowness led the Jets to one of their better seasons to date, second place in the Central Division, a top 3 spot in the West, and even though they had a short series and were eliminated by the Colorado Avalanche, she had a fantastic season for the Winnipeg Jets. So lots of interesting potentialities there for the Jack Adams winner. Like I said, I think Tochett will probably win it given how well the Canucks did winning the Pacific Division, but also wouldn't rule out the possibility of Brunette or Bowness getting the Jack Adams award, just given the fact that Brunette helped that team go on a 16 or 17 game point streak, and Bowness really did help that Jets team be one of the dominant teams in the regular season. So lots of interesting potentialities there. There's probably a couple of other coaches that were probably should have been qualified for Jack Adams and didn't, so interesting stuff there. But Bowness, Brunette, and Tochett are the 3 finalists for Jack Adams, so some interesting stuff there. We'll probably get more trophy finalists in the next couple of days, but some interesting stuff there, and I can't wait to see who ends up winning that trophy. And then lastly, going over to a couple of trade rumors from the past couple of days. First, with the Seattle Kraken, is there a possibility we could see Adam Larsson be dealt this offseason? Now, I'm not saying it's a guarantee here. Larsson's a really good defenseman. He's been a really good defenseman ever since the Kraken claimed him in the expansion draft. He's worked out fantastically as like a top pair defenseman partner for Vince Dunn, but he's going to be entering the final year of his deal, and I'm not sure if the Kraken are going to be willing to offer him a longer term deal to resign him. So if they aren't able to do that, could they move him? We know that the Kraken needs some more scoring help. I said that if he's available, they should go after Marner. I said that they could go after Joel Farabee for that be mentioned a little bit. There's a couple of other guys I think around the NHL that they would be willing to target via free agency as well. So I think there's a possibility we could see Seattle make some interesting moves in the offseason, and I do wonder if Larsson's one of them. Like I said, Larsson's a really good top 4 defensive defenseman, could work really well for a lot of teams as like a solid veteran top 4 defenseman, and could be something a lot of teams, especially ones who are competing for playoffs, are missing. So I do wonder if we do see an Adam Larsson trade. Not saying it's a guarantee, because Larsson is an extremely good defender, and I don't think the Kraken really want to lose him, but with him entering the final year of his deal, if either the Kraken are unable to sign to an extension, or if he doesn't want an extension, I think there's a very likely possibility we could see Larsson be traded. Maybe not in the offseason, maybe that's just something that happens closer to the deadline, but I think if the Kraken are going to be a little more of a better team next year, they need to upgrade their offense. I think the best way to upgrade this team's offense is to potentially move out some pieces from the blue line, and I think Larsson could be the guy that they wind up moving. So I'll have to wait and see exactly what happens there, but I think Larsson is a name we'll have to watch out for over the next little while to see if he ends up getting dealt. So I'll have to wait and see on that, but I definitely think there's a possibility with Larsson being moved, especially if he was able to help them get top 6 goal scoring help, because they really desperately need that. So I think there's a likely possibility that happens. Next, going over to the LA Kings. I've seen this been mentioned a couple of times, but this is something that's been picking up steam. Could the LA Kings either trade or buy out Pierre-Luc Dubois? Now, this is an extremely interesting scenario, but Dubois at this current point in time is 25 years old. So if the Kings were to buy him out, they were able to buy him out for 1/3 buyout, because players under 26 years old only need a 1/3 buyout. And that would actually make this buyout actually reasonable for the LA Kings. Now, the interesting thing is that depending on how long the Stanley Cup goes, Dubois could be turning 26 before the buyout window opens. And if that's possible, then it's a 2/3 buyout, and it's a lot more difficult to pull off. But if it is a 1/3 buyout, and the buyout window does open before Dubois turns 26, I think there could be a very likely chance we could see Dubois being bought out. And I'm not saying it's a guarantee. We will also look at a trade option here possibly too, but if they look at the buyout, if the Kings were to buy him out, they would only have a cap of 1.6 for next year and 1.5 for the year after. So the first 2 years are really good. Then 2.5 for year 3, and then 3.7 for year 4, 3.8 for both year 5 and year 6, and it's 2.8 cap it for year 7, and then they would have 7 extra seasons on the cap it at a $1.13 million AAV. So it's not overly ideal ideal. I think they would rather try to make something work with Dubois, but given how low that cap is, given he's making $8.5 million right now, that might be an interesting option there for the Kings. Now, like I said, if it's a 2/3 buyout and like the Stanley Cup goes longer and he turns 26 before a buyout window opens, probably won't get bought out. But there's a possibility he could get bought out before he turns 26. I think there's a very likely chance the Kings could wind up trying to do something like this. I'm not saying it's a guarantee or anything, but I think it's a possibility. And if not, they could be looking to try and move Dubois this offseason. We talked about this before. I do wonder about Boston, if they're able to pry Allmark. Maybe they move Dubois to Boston for a fresh change of scenery. I could see the Flames have some interest given their weak center depth. I'm not sure if the Caps will be open to moving this, but I think the Caps could be looking for a center, so maybe they have some interest. I've seen some people say trading the Montreal for maybe like a Gallagher or an Anderson, try and give him a fresh start, give him to where he wanted to go originally, which was Montreal. And on top of that, the Kings will be able to get someone who doesn't have as much term, so we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens there, but there's a very likely chance we could see either Dubois be bought out or Dubois be traded this offseason, so that's a situation we're going to have to watch out for. And lastly, could we see the Winnipeg Jets trade Nikolai Ehlers? Now, Ehlers is entering the final year of his deal. He's going to be needing a new contract next offseason, and this year in the playoffs, he was really non-factor in that series against Colorado. He factored in on a couple of things, looked decent at times, but he wasn't the impact player that we know that Ehlers can be, and I know that there were a lot of Jets fans who were not overly happy with Ehlers' performance in the playoffs, so it was a really bad thing there for the Jets. And I think there's a possibility we could see Winnipeg move Ehlers, and I'm not exactly sure where he could go. I've seen some people mention that maybe he'd be a good fit in Buffalo. I've seen some people mention he could be a good fit in Ottawa, so I'm not exactly sure who the Jets will be willing to move Ehlers to, but I think Ehlers might want a fresh start. He just hasn't looked like he has been an overly great top six forward there for the Jets. Some of the pressure might be getting to him. I'm not even sure if Ehlers wants to sign a long-term extension with the Jets anyway, so I think there's a very likely possibility that if he doesn't want to remain in Winnipeg, and that if the Jets really want a fresh start for him, we could see an Ehlers trade this offseason. Not exactly sure what they would want for him. My guess would be either a really good player in return or something like a first-round draft pick and a good prospect would be my guess, but Ehlers is a pretty good player, and I think for teams who could definitely use some more scoring help, like we said, Ottawa, Buffalo might be interested. I'm not exactly sure who other teams could be interested. I wouldn't rule out the fact that a team like Detroit could be interested, maybe the New Jersey Devils. On top of that, maybe the Islanders if they really want to get some more scoring help. There's probably a couple of other teams out there too who would really want a goal scorer like a Nikolai Ehlers, so we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens. I'm not saying it's a guarantee that Ehlers does get moved, but with him entering the final year of his contract and not having a really great playoff series against the Avalanche, I think there's a very likely chance we could see Ehlers be dealt and be in a new uniform come the next season, so we'll have to wait and see on that. But he's got one more year left after this year. He has a modified no trade clause. He can have a 10-team no trade list, so it'll be interesting to see, but with Ehlers not doing overly well in the playoffs, I think there's a very likely chance we could see the Jets move on from him, so we'll have to wait and see on that. But that's all I'm going to talk about for today. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on all this down in the comment section below. What do you think about all this stuff that we discussed here today? Do you think Ehlers gets dealt, and if so, where do you think is the best fit for him? Do you think Dubois gets bought out? If not, do you think he gets traded, and if so, where does he get traded to? Do you think that the Seattle Kraken wound up moving Larsson in order to get a goal scorer, and if so, where do you think they could move him to? And what do you think about the finalists for Jack Adams trophies, the injury updates, and the signing updates? Definitely love to hear your thoughts on all of that down in the comment section below. So I'm going to talk about for today. I'm going to tell you this video, and for other to subscribe down below. Think about your support, and I will too love you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget the subscribe button down below, and don't forget to leave a comment down in the comment section below so I can discuss today's video. I also do a blog type on news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that, so if you check that out, I'll leave a link in the description below, and I can't see you guys all for next video. See you guys soon.